Hello everyone. So I meant to talk about this the other day, but I didn't get around to it. And that's to do with taxis in Ireland, and particularly at the moment, as you know, across the country. There's been a good few protests over the last few days to do with the standardised fares, I suppose, on the app Uber. So pretty much what I mean by that is it'll be standardised. Take for example, you're going from Cavan Town to Virginia, take for argument's sake, about a 30-minute drive, give or take, depending on traffic. There'd be a standardised fare. It wouldn't be like the meter, if that makes any sense. It's a standardised fare. So take for example that would be, say, for argument's sake, €60, right? But say if it was an only drive, a taxi, it could be whatever the meter says it is. So say for example if it's 60, it says on the Uber app it's €60 to go from Cavan Town to Virginia. Take for example if you went by the meter, it could be €80, it could be €90. And a lot of taxi drivers feel like they're out of pocket because they're losing out pretty much. And this is mainly for short distances too, because cause short distances is the majority of people. A lot of people don't take huge distances on taxis, etc. And of course, it's not an easy life. And just what to say, I appreciate taxi drivers. I take taxis a good few times around Cavan, so I know all of them nearly by name, to be totally honest. And I've been some of them with there since I was a child, and they're great people. They know every inch of Cavan. It's great. And then we have some new people that don't know where they're going at all. But let's put it this way: it's a tough old station. It's really a tough job, because I've spoken to many taxi drivers there, for example, in Cavan, and there's people getting sick in their car at a Saturday night. They're working all hours, and there's people getting sick, and then some people don't pay. There was one incident in Cavan just about a few months ago, about 5 months ago, give or take, where the person got out of the car and didn't pay for the fare, and there was a big hullabaloo over that. But yeah, and then there's obviously people sometimes say, "Oh, I pay you later," and then the tab. I think even take for example, I think it's in Wicklow, someone like that. There's a taxi, and it's a person they usually pick up, and he owes them about 500, €600. So they're about €600 or €500 out of their own pocket for petrol, etc., bringing that person back and forth. And it's a tough old station. It's not easy, but I do think standardised fares are the best. For distances, like it'd be a certain so much. Say for example, it's €12 from like what I pay for where I live. Say for example in Cavan, if you look at the map or into that, you understand what I'm talking about. From Cavan town to Buttersbridge, it's about 6 or 7 kilometers, depending on what part of the town you're getting it from. Of course, depending on traffic, but mainly that's by the meter. So it's around €12 to €15, which a lot of people would say that's daylight robbery, for 6 kilometers or so, 7 kilometers. And I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. It doesn't matter to me. But it is the meter, so that's what it usually would be. So it's always around that from 12 to 15. But it could be more. I once got a taxi take for example from Buttersbridge to Ballyconnor once, and that was nearly €70 both ways. Like to get from Buttersbridge, which is about maybe 30 kilometers, give or take. But that was about €70. Yeah, each way it was about 170 or so. I paid that day to go back and forth, and from Buttersbridge to Belturbet it was €40 each way. And Belturbet's only out the road, it was €40 to go from here to Belturbet. Now it was the other side of Belturbet, so we had to go through the town to the other side of it. So it was a good bit of tricking about to get there. But what I'm trying to say is, it's not an easy life being a taxi driver. But at the same time too, prices of taxis have gone up, as we know. So you're paying more now than you did ever before. And of course, it's not easy now. You have to pay for fuel, you have to pay for insurance, etc. in your taxi, MOT, the whole shebang. It's not easy for taxi drivers, and especially now, with apps like Uber, etc., etc. A lot of people go away from the only taxis, and as I say, a lot of taxi drivers don't feel safe. I think it was a survey done in Dublin, and I think nearly all of the taxi drivers there are don't feel safe, because of antisocial behaviour, etc. People are alcoholics, etc. A lot of people now, public opinion is mixed on this. I will say that some people are in favour of this, the standardised fares in terms of the Uber app. So say for example, as I said, from Cavan to Virginia, some people would be in favour of that. A good few people are in favour of that. But a lot of people at the same time understand the taxi driver's concern, and to extent I do too, because it's not easy. It's not an easy job. It's not it's not anyway easy, and it's a difficult job, particularly when you have people that's drunk or will pay for your fare, etc. It's in long hours. It's not easy. I understand that. I get that. But at the same time, to the people that are paying for the only Irish public, if they live particularly in the rural area where there's no transport, where there's no buses, take for example rural County Cavan, there's no buses, there's no trains, there's no anything like that. The only other option if they don't have a car is either walk or get a bike, or get a taxi. And unfortunately, there's a lot of elderly people I know that go in to Cavan on a Friday to get their pension, and they do their shopping, etc., and have no car. And they rely on the taxi, and that's the only way to get in and out of town. It's a thing, but and of course it's a bit of a company for them too, having to talk to somebody compared to being on a bus or anything like that. But I do agree that the standardised fares should be a thing. Like there should be a set fare for wherever you're going. But say for example, as I said, from Carpenton to Virginia, say for example that's €60, right? Fair enough. But that's the standardised fare. But at the same time, too, you get the question, what's the point in the meter then if you have standardised fares? Because I do think the meter is fair. Now I know some people have made complaints about the fares, etc. Like in terms of the meter, sometimes the meters are tricked with. There's been instances of that in this country that the meters have been tricked with. What I mean with that, it goes up more quicker than it should. There's been instances of that over the years. But I do think the vast majority of people who are taxi drivers, and particularly long time, as I say, there's people in Cavan that's doing it years, donkey's years, since I was a child. And they're very legitimate people that sort the earth. They know every inch of Cavan. You couldn't find better people than nearly our tourists. Informers, I suppose, they tell everybody if any tourists came to, for example, every location you could go to and every place you should go to, etc. They're nearly the one-stop shop for all the information. But at the same time, too, you get my point. So I understand both sides. Both sides are making a decent argument. In terms of the only Irish public saying about standardised fares, because again, when you get into a taxi, it's up to the meter at the end of the day. But I understand what I'm doing. But again, you have to understand too the taxi drivers. If what Uber wants to implement, probably would affect their income a lot. It would. But I suppose I hope I covered it well. But I understand both sides, to be told. And both sides I understand, because at the end of the day, you're in business, you have a job, you have a taxi to pay for, you have a family, yeah, etc. And I understand that. But yeah, but I do think we should try and go find somewhere in the middle. It's hard to know how to describe it. Find somewhere in the middle that we could try and make everybody happy in a way. But I don't know, would that be possible? But I do think there should be some kind of standardised fare. In terms of just, for example, when I'm using my coming home from work, sometimes I get a taxi. As I said, it's about 12 to €15. You don't know until you get home how much it's going to be. Sometimes it could be 12, sometimes it could be 15. That's usually what it's around. So say for example, you probably should, you would like to know when you get in, it's going to be €15, right? Fair enough. But yeah, some people wouldn't maybe have the extra few bob on them. And things like that. But anyway, let me know what you think. Do you support it? Do you are you against it? What's the story? But I do agree, and of course I do agree that people should be paid for their work. And that's as simple as that. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.